I'm very happy to be here with you this afternoon after quite some time that we haven't seen each other. Quite a lot of time has passed. The last time I was there was last week.
But before that, I hadn't been there.
Not even during the time of the war. I didn't come much because I was also in Haifa, and after that I had to go to Yarden.
Yours?
There, one. I have a couple of thank yous. I wanted to tell you that after about 19 years, more or less, we were able to travel to Argentina, which is our homeland. After so much time, we were able to visit our family.
God has given us a very special time.
A time of very high quality. And for the kids, for Priel and Bruchel, it was the first time in their lives that they went so far. We enjoyed it so much, and we were able to hug my mom, my siblings, and my brothers and sisters-in-law.
Maybe what family has here.
Everything I say, maybe they can't understand, but after almost 20 years of not seeing them, it was really very good. It's a very special time, and we enjoy every moment. We started at 7 or 8 in the morning, we ate breakfast, and then we went out and didn't come back until 11, 12, or 1 in the morning.
It was winter.
But when we got here, it was the middle of summer, so over there it was the coldest part of winter, and here, summer. That was quite difficult.
But we are very grateful.
In time, it is known that Kenneth had finished the army and Priel had to start the army, and it was a time, there was like a window. And we really didn't know that if we didn't take that time, we didn't know when we bought the flights, it was canceled because of the war.
We had to buy another one.
We still haven't gotten that money back.
But we know that it will be given back to us in time.
You know, there are many things that when we make plans, a lot of things can come up that can change those plans.
But anyway.
Yesterday I was at the office.
And I was talking.
I was reading in Chronicles, then I was reading in Samuel. I was reading the story of King David.
And it was the
story of David. It's a story that allows us to learn a lot.
It goes through ups and downs.
There wasn't much, a quiet time for a long while, and I also think that most of us also go through ups and downs.
And what if we could find a line of balance? Maybe it could even become dangerous because we are
thinking about when it's going to
arrive,
the difficult situation, and maybe we're not prepared for that blow.
But when there are ups and downs.
But we know what the foundation is, and we have to find that foundation.
Where we have to be right now.
There are also 2 testimonies before I wanted to talk about King David that could be helping us.
At least for me, it was helping me, and I wanted to share 2 testimonies with you.
One is from August 12th.
On June 11th, I was at the airport, and I received people who were coming here.
They were very happy that they were able to arrive in Israel, in Jerusalem, and visit the holy places where Jesus was.
And they landed on June 11th, and the next day we were in Jaffa in Caesarea.
They were
Haifa at the hotel at 12.
Already in the early morning, around 12-something in the morning. We all know that the phones started making the noises you already know, which were strange and we didn't understand anything.
And when we went to breakfast,
and they started asking us what happened last night.
and I really didn't know.
I asked the guide who was there, and I also told him, but the guide couldn't understand it either. But there was some news in a report saying it was the time to be alert, you know? And the hotel also received it, that no one could leave the hotel.
So
I put myself in the shoes of people who have heard a lot, well, not a lot of news, and at that moment I got angry with the country of Israel and with many people in order to help them.
the tourists and no one?
And we really can't help anyone.
Really, but yes.
I'm there, I'm the one who has to face them and be able to talk to them. Yes, and so it was very dangerous because I realized that we were in a certain time.
Levante is dangerous.
We started to realize that we were in a dangerous place because everything was tense. We asked for a room at the hotel so we could find one, but they told us to pay first and then go in. That's how it is here, and we're in a time of war.
So only?
We just want to get together to pray, and I don't know what else. So he says, well, there's nothing else to do, you have to pay.
So,
Well, we later met with the people and with all the tourists who were praying in a very special, very serious way for the protection of Israel. And they also prayed for themselves for their own protection. And I listened to their stories.
for example,
There was the story of one of the girls who was on the tour who spent 3 years in prison. And the first thing she asked for when she was released from prison was to get on a plane and come visit Israel.
and a week after she got out of prison,
Yeah,
she already got on the plane and came here.
even though she couldn't make it to the hotel at the wall.
So, and another person, for example,
She gave me a little bag with lots and lots of orders.
prayer requests.
They were all prayer requests from girls who were in prison so I could put the little notes on the wall. And even though we couldn't go, despite everything we tried,
So,
Caesar gave us all those little papers with all the requests.
prayer, and we have to do that for them.
And I understood that there are things we don't have control over. There are things we prepare in advance, but there are things we don't. We can't control, and that changes the whole future, the whole path. And we have to be prepared so that we can find ourselves on that path and keep standing strong, stand up, and keep going. And we have to keep adapting the plan we had with the new things, even though sometimes it's not possible to do the same program. And that's one testimony. And the other is at the end of the day. She arrived and couldn't put the little papers, amen. And they couldn't arrive in a specific way, but instead they came by another path. That is to say, we can change the plans, but he is the one who has the way. So he has to do, he will do as he wants, and we have to receive what he says. As Howard said before, there is something that the doctors give to Delia, and we believe in him who has no limitations. And sometimes he, with his power and his sovereignty, he plans to do things in another way. And it's difficult, and he knows all the plans he has for us, and we have to believe. He can perform a miracle. At the 99th minute. But we have to be able to learn how to cope with this. Although he has the path, we don't always want to enter that path, and sometimes we struggle not to be on that path because we think it's not the right path. But actually it's the path that he prepared for us. So other things that happened in those same days, there was a lot of pressure with the responsibility for many people. And I had to go to Jordan, and we are in Jordan, and we were hearing all the sirens. And do you know why? Because all the missiles pass over Jordan and reach Israel. So they told me, don't worry, because they're not coming for us, they're going to Israel.
And thank you. And then
Sometimes you think, but what if it falls here? Because actually we're here too.
well,
After 2 days, we were able to go and say thank you. Turkey, which is very, very close to Iran,
Iran.
and there were many people who were praying for that situation.
And that same night I went to the hotel.
And my heart was saying, Lord, Señor, I wanted to worship in the place where all the demonic forces are. So, do you know which one that is, which is Istanbul? You know that there is a Mesgid, a very, very big mosque there, and then in front of it there is another very, very important one. There are two main ones, and in the middle there's a street, a hippodrome from Roman times. Once when I was there before, about 2 years ago, there was a guide who I wasn't with. I had prayed in another place.
And in that place where I prayed, he told me, yes, the prayer you made is just like that.
You did it like a prayer.
It can be understood as a proclamation of war.
Yes, but you realize that you are with your prayer.
Are you proclaiming war?
How can it be because you are praying? May God bring peace.
You, God, bring peace and touch the people.
So that people know they can get to know you, God, because we have our own God. Why do I have to know yours? So does that mean you have thoughts of war? So I told him, yes, I understand, but 2,000 and something years ago, there were people here who believed in him, you.
Build these buildings. And well,
We were talking about all that, and he wasn't happy at all to hear it.
and
I told him I want to, yes, I would like to pray here. And everything that happens in Israel,
and everything that happens with Turkey, which doesn't want Israel.
and everything that's happening.
We started, thank you.
And then he told me,
So well,
tomorrow at 9:30 in the morning, you are going to worship the Lord, your God.
in the place where you want,
Then he says, I ask him,
will there be any problems? He says,
yes,
no one else tried it before.
so let's give it a try. So we went there, so I arrived at that place, and there were almost 70 of us, and we came to worship. We made a circle, and I stood in the middle. And I began to proclaim that God is one and the only one, and I started to worship the Lord, and that every tongue will know that He is our God. And they passed by our Muslim people.
Others who laughed, who were not happy, who didn't want what we were saying.
But there were people, also tourists, who joined us, who began to worship in their own language, and there were several people with different languages. And we were there in that very special place. And I started to think that only God is the one who can do this, a thought that just came up in my heart. But we left very,
very strengthened.
and the darkness.
To the darkness, yes.
It is not.
It's not very good for the darkness, my dear.
We know that
We have,
to come and do
like,
a cleansing through prayer.
praise.
I know that sometimes we don't talk about this, but we know that there is a spiritual world that wages spiritual warfare. Everything that happens in Israel and everything that will happen, everything that has happened, it's not a political war. It's not a war about who is the strongest or this army or that army. It's a spiritual war. The enemy doesn't want the Messiah to return to this place.
We are in a time.
It's very special, and we also have to be prepared. When I go around to different places,
It's very difficult.
also the people within the congregations who try to keep their distance from Israel. Yesterday I was talking to a person who is about to become the president of a nation and of a specific special nation.
And here,
Towards the end of the conversation, he tells me what you are doing in Gaza is not right. I wanted to tell him that what happens in the news isn't exactly like that. Yes, it's true that we don't agree, but it's not exactly like everything that happens in the news. Many things are not real. They're not good, and they're not recent things, but rather old things that aren't from now. So even when you watch those videos,
you realize that it's not current, but he didn't understand.
and then he says it's a shame.
Thank you.
And it's a shame because we already made a decision an hour ago, but it's a shame that we didn't talk. We were in this conversation before because we already made this decision, and I asked what decision, that we're going to be in favor of Palestine. With the flag and everything, we're going to do a march. So us, it really is a shame. She later felt very sorry about what had happened. But we have to be adapted to the Lord's timing, to know what the time is. The prophets also spoke about the things that are going to happen, and we are going through some of the things that were spoken about in the past. This isn't part of the message, but it's like to be a beginning of things, so that we understand where we are and that we know that we have to be in the place, so that you know where you are and that you are in the right place, thinking the right things, and on the right side, you have to be on the Lord's side.
Then I was reading and I was going through Samuel, the first one.
Of Samuel, and in one part, and then I continued to 2 Samuel and all those chapters. Obviously, we're not going to read everything, but I saw that in all of that, there was like a transition of 4 processes that David, before he became king, he had to go through until finally he came to rule in Jerusalem.
The message.
The title is From Ziklag to Hebron, that's the topic. There is a presentation. I'm going to try to put us in the story.
In those same days,
Israel, in those days,
there was
A very difficult time, politically very different from what we are going through now.
King Saul lost control and didn't.
And he didn't do what Samuel told him.
He did part of it.
But it wasn't complete with what Samuel had asked him.
And Saul?
At the end of the time, he receives the end of his reign.
And God chose David to be the next king of Israel, but until the time came for David to become king in Jerusalem.
A lot of things had to happen.
Many processes in his life which were not easy, but he had the calling. When Samuel went to Jesse's house and David was there, the youngest of all the brothers, and he told him that he was going to be the king of Israel.
After that, from all those things,
Such a calling,
so great.
because we imagine that the person who doesn't come from a royal family, you are not part of the royalty. But then someone with a lot of authority or the prophet comes and tells you that you are going to do something very important. What?
And not
David wasn't the right one because he wasn't family, he wasn't the oldest, but in reality he was the king. God is the one who directs everything. And also David didn't have everything. David had all his plans. You know that he had started to be a shepherd, and maybe he had planned to be a shepherd his whole life, but God has a plan for each one of us. I don't know if you know that, and I ask,
you don't have to answer me.
but answer yourselves internally. If you know the plan that God has for you, so think for a moment.
Here comes Mongoline.
If you say yes, very well. If you say, I don't know what God's plan is for my life, you have to start coming to Him and ask Him, what is God's plan?
What is your plan? Because, for example,
She has only recently started on God's path. But if there is someone who has been on this path for years, then yes, they do need to start working on that. Because God has a gift for each one.
a gift for each one.
The gift of God is not, I'm going to tell you that it is not God's plan that everyone comes every weekend to sit in a chair, even though it's very good, it's a blessing. And it's biblical that yes, you have to do it.
But don't mix things up.
God doesn't just want people who come and sit in the chairs every weekend. Does He have plans for each one?
One day you're going to find yourself without something that gives you satisfaction.
Years from now, you'll look back and wonder how long you sat in this chair.
30 years, 40 years.
Once I arrived at a congregation in Chile where I met a man. I don't want to hurt anyone.
To sit in the chairs and that.
That's a topic that's kind of like to say, you have to be careful about what you're going to talk about. Thank you. It's the moment when he can appear on camera.
The moment the camera can come on.
Bueno, ahora me perdí el.
The camera, but no. I was in Chile once at a congregation.
I said that I don't want the moment on camera.
But a man came who had the moment. He was on camera. Very proud.
And he told me that I was there. I've been here for 40 years, and I've always sat in this same chair. As if that were his chair, that every weekend he comes and fills that chair, that chair. He was so proud that he never missed a single weekend at the meetings.
All right, think.
If you can understand.
I didn't answer him because I didn't know what to say to him at the time.
I really didn't know what to say to him.
But today, I can't. Honestly, I don't know what I could have said to him.
But I could have thought. And what gave you 40 years? To come and fill your chair?
To fill your chair week after week? There was.
I had a conversation a few days ago, and I said again, I don't want to be misunderstood.
And I said,
Serving the Lord is not just coming and sitting in the chair. God has a plan for each one of us, and the moment we can understand what God's plan is, we can walk toward it. David had a plan that he had to reach.
to reign in Jerusalem.
God gave him that vision from a young age, and since I gave it to you so that you would go and reign over all Israel, then you can. We can know what God's plan is for us, but when we see that the plan doesn't come or it's very difficult, sometimes we think it moves away, it moves farther and farther away, and that's what they say. Maybe it wasn't God's plan for my life.
Maybe it was my own thought or an emotion I had or feelings.
Maybe it wasn't from God. But when we got on the plane with a thought from God, He sent me here, and in the end we found ourselves. Which is not exactly what I thought. Or maybe what I thought He was going to do. But you know what? David went through exactly the same thing when God told him, you're going to be king. One day, the most difficult days of his life started happening to him. He started playing his instrument in the king's house until one day King Saul. Until one day he started
To go crazy.
And she didn't want him anymore, but he didn't want it anymore either. But he was going to be the king, and even the king himself didn't want him.
Why?
Because there were a lot of circumstances there, but David had a very clear plan that he was going to be the king.
The path.
He didn't know it, but God did have the path, and fulfilling that promise, He can do it, and He did it.
That's why I think about this story. That from Samuel, 1 Samuel,
Up to 2 Samuel. Saul goes out with his soldiers to look for David and kill him, and he arrives at a place,
at a camp.
and Abner, the general, was there.
He was the king's guardian, and they went to sleep. And David comes there to the same place
Where the king, Abner, and his army are. And the one who was next to David said to him, look, God has given your enemy into your hands. It's God's will. Sometimes there's a saying like, if they kill the king, then you'll be the one and you'll become the king. Did he have the promise? Yes.
So,
If he does it, then we quickly finish the whole problem. But he said, no, I'm not going to do that. Because he understood God's timing, and he knew that it wasn't his plan or his timing, but God's timing.
and it's very difficult.
Very difficult to know when it's God's timing and when it's your own, because something happened in his heart, in his mind. The only thing that can give you the certainty to know that it's not your timing, but God's timing, is to listen to God. If we are not in a good relationship with God, we can fall on the path we are walking and we will start to go down another path. We begin listening to voices other than God's.
But David, he
Was so close to God that he knew killing him was not the way. Even though he surely would have immediately started to be king, he knew it was not his time to act. And he was very smart, and he took the items, and in the morning he was standing at a distance and started shouting.
and he shouts to Abner,
Didn't you guard the king? And Saul says, I know that voice, it's David's.
and David says to him,
I haven't harmed you.
I
I had the chance, but your life is precious to me, so I didn't want to kill you.
even though I could have.
And what Saul says is, thank you.
That I love this.
I really liked what you did. And he says to her, come to me, come back to me, and I regret everything I did. I won't do this anymore. Come back and be with me, and everything will be fine. As the enemy says, and what does David say? Our paths are far apart. We are not together. Huh? You will have your time, and I will have my time. And Saul understands and says, go ahead, and tells him to have great days.
And you are going to have very great days.
So the enemy blesses his future with good words, but David didn't have a place to stay.
Amen.
The one who was going to be king was in a moment of a breakup.
It had promise.
But it has nothing.
There's a thought that rises in his head.
That he starts to go south and reaches the king of Gad, who is Achish. And when he gets there, he asks him. Because in reality, he was the enemy of the enemy.
And he, the Philistines,
The enemy of Saul and David goes to the enemy and asks for territory. And he says, if I have found favor in your eyes, give me a place where I can live. And in the end, he gave it to him. The area of Ziklag to me symbolizes the place or the time when David had to leave the sun, when he had to find God's security. Was in Ziklag.
in Ziklag. It is written that it says, the first thing I had to do was,
Find security. Why did he call it security and already told him to see, huh?
It's very Elopherex, I know, and if we're now in 1 Samuel.
1 Samuel, 30.
Thank you for watching the video.
And it is written that David was in danger.
Thank you.
And he had gratitude.
Ferex, I saw him killing the choir.
David and the people who were with him strained their eyes until they had no strength left. And he was greatly distressed because of the sin.
Since the people talked of stoning him.
And Dawood, Dawood strengthened himself in Jehovah at that moment. Coming to, just a little to encourage.
That in reality he was against himself.
David was against the people of Israel.
And so there comes a moment when they're going to go to war and he has to join in. And some of the Philistines weren't crazy.
Himself, how is it that I was him?
Part of the Philistines, they told him he can't come with us because in the end he's part. Because you don't want him to rise up against us. And Achish tells him, it's better if you go back home and stay there. And when he gets home, he finds a really, really big mess. They came and kidnapped his wives, his people.
You know, they burned everything.
You know that in October, something very similar happened to us, very similar to what happened to David.
And people spoke thank you. And they had said thank you. Huh?
They had talked about killing David and everything, about stoning him, but David found himself without friends. The king, because he couldn't go back to his people, and the Philistines didn't believe in him either.
He was, huh?
Manuta, he was kind of in a break. He was separated from everyone.
They were in.
They were in a crisis, and so were we.
Many times.
I'm sure you'll always go through some kind of
breaking point.
Why? Because it's the path that God chooses to prepare us for a better way. There's no such thing as a child who is born and immediately starts walking. Children are born, they start, and they fall and scrape themselves. And that's how they learn that this is dangerous, or that thing over there. And that not all types of ground are good for them. They have to start being able to ride, adapt to all situations. Why? Because all of this prepares them for when one day they can run, jump, which are the most difficult things. And generally, we as parents come to help the children, but sometimes we don't help them. We don't help them with the things that will happen to them in the future. So sometimes we have to give them the chance to get to know the world where they are, the parents. I know that everyone.
Right.
We want to take care of them.
The children, so they don't get hurt. Thank you.
And all the time, when my kids were little, I had to wash their hands all the time so they wouldn't have dirt on them. But actually, you have to let them, they need to experience all that and nothing bad happens. And it's okay for them to come home one day all dirty and not scold them for it. Or get angry or anything, because they need to experience all this since it gives them those feelings. And David was in a very dangerous situation.
A very difficult one.
Everyone leaves him all alone. But he had to find security in his calling. He had to find his security in the fact that God told him he was going to be king. And at the end of the time, he tells us, thank you. In 1 Samuel.
Thank you. 6, thank you.
What did it say about David? Right, who got back everything they had.
Stolen from him.
Him?
Huh?
And he began to grow stronger, to rely on what? Huh?
Before he had lost.
Also in people, because people were losing faith in him.
Because yes.
Huh?
If we're with you.
You're going to be a king and this happens to us, then does it mean we can't be with a leader like you?
Man, so everyone had left him alone. Thank you.
Sometimes I find many. Huh? Many times I meet people who want to find their.
Huh? The answer without going through the experience.
And because if we get to a place too quickly without having the experience.
For example.
I don't want to get to an emergency room and there you have to get surgery and the person who operates on you, it's their first time. You wouldn't have liked it when we were outside the country, huh? Because of a situation that happened, we ended up in the emergency room at the hospital, and there was a doctor. And when I heard the doctor,
His accent.
I knew he wasn't from that country, but from somewhere else. And I said, oh,
It was a little difficult.
because I knew which country I came from. And in the end, 2 nurses came who were talking to each other on the phone, and it was a very difficult situation, really tough. And I told her, you have to work quickly because you studied for this. This boy needs emergency care right now, and we know what we have to do. You just stay calm. I don't have to, explain it to you because you already studied how you have to work in an emergency situation. So work because this is an emergency. So they came over a bit upset, and when they tried to put the needle in to draw blood, they did 1, 2,
3, 4, 1 with all the
the syringe to be able to find the vein.
And I tell him, wait.
This is not professional at all. Right? There's no need to rush, but if you aren't sure how.
That slipped out, my bad.
There's no need to rush and put them there when they don't know yet. It's better to put a professional in that place so that that they put, and that they don't put these people who didn't have experience, and at some point they'll become fast and be able to draw blood in one go. But there's a process they have to go through, which they can't skip, and that's why they have to follow it. And that every project,
Every plan has its own.
and
And then he invited the
priest.
and he started, and then he received,
They were able to recover everything they lost, everything that had been stolen from them.
but he also recovered his name.
His name was David, and he found God's safety and protection once again. And he also received so many things that he even began to share them with the people who weren't there. He is waiting for all the people who were in the hole in the southern part of the Negev and Point 3. He was exercising, being in to be in shape, in a sporty state.
And then they say that after the death of Saul,
And then when Saul died, David doesn't immediately receive the authority. The same days that the war was going on, and of course there was also a war in the north, there were clashes in 2 places. He was in the north of Saul, who had died.
and here in the south,
It was the part of the war between David and the Amalekites, and up there in the north, it was Israel and the Philistines. And Saul dies up there. And here they bring the news to David, and when David receives it, he is not in a hurry to take the throne, even though he was supposed to receive it because he comes from a victory. People loved him, but he didn't take that quickly. Sometimes we need to ask ourselves, do I have to hurry or do I have to wait?
many times there are situations where I have to hurry,
But in other situations, I have to wait. As we know,
again,
through the closeness I have with God, if I don't have a good relationship with God, I can't tell the difference between the times. It is written in Chronicles that at the end of time they came and, they recognized David to be king.
and there are many people who came from all the people who came, but there was one,
Tribe that was Issachar.
that Dulcie one,
This tribe that they knew how to do,
they were,
experienced in the times.
was it going to happen? So,
Aren't we told about why they have so many warriors, about all the wars they fought? He spoke about this tribe, that they knew the times and knew it was David's time to be king.
And Zapir, as I said,
He's not in a hurry to take the throne.
and he asks him,
He invites the priest and asks him, "What do I have to say?"
what do I have to do? And which city do you say? And God tells him Hebron.
And then he goes to Hebron. And the people of Judah make him king of Judah for 7.5 years.
But not over Israel.
Saul was the king of Israel.
There was no one who had ruled over Israel.
There were people who tried to take the reign of Israel.
But Zapir, but David, he waited for God's timing, knowing that at some point God would give it to him. But in the meantime, he took this school.
That nobody wanted, that nobody was interested in, that it was about starting to practice and getting in shape.
That is to say,
That if you got a job that isn't very good, or if you once got a good job and today you didn't. So take this place as if it were a gym.
a place where you're training everything.
You're training yourself. So when the time comes for you to do what you have to do, don't go to work every morning angry. It's not the place I expected.
It's not the place I wanted.
I studied this for many years. Why do I have to go drive to clean?
Me too.
I was also in a very difficult time,
Very difficult. How many months did I spend cleaning at a hotel?
They're filth on top of filth. But I knew that God had another place for me, but I took that as a school and I learned from it. I was the one who cleaned everything.
I was the best at cleaning and I became the
leader. Of all those who swept today,
if we have to. Let's see, sometimes when I have to sweep.
I always have mud. I like to sweep everywhere. And Lorena sometimes hides the broom from me because I always end up coming and starting to sweep because I can't help it.
I have to see everything clean and like that.
I practiced on myself, but it was a process because I knew that at some point I was going to be, the leader of everyone who sweeps. So I have to start, learning how to sweep. And if you come and start from the bottom and you want to open a business or something, first you have to be in a place where you're happy, and because he sees you, you have to be happy with what you're doing.
That's what happened with David,
One day he knew he would reach the moment of Jerusalem and Israel, but for now it wasn't the time. He waited 7.5 years and he learned. He wasn't just waiting.
He learned to listen. He sat with the people, with the elders.
He knew how to govern.
How to judge. He knew how to use the
finances, all of that was a school so that God at the end of the day
could lift him up in the end.
And when you stood firm there, were you willing to fulfill God's calling?
All this time, all those things that were happening. I think each one of us knows that we can do it, right?
We are going to go through our own situations in each of our lives. The question is, if I ask, how do you see yourself when you are here? For example, if you are on the 4th step, maybe you can be content that you arrived and that you did fulfill God's plan, but sometimes you could also have something bad for us, because sometimes we run so fast to get that prize that when we arrive, we just want to get to that prize. We want to take down those who are ahead, but actually we forgot that we had to wait for God's timing in order to move forward.
Right?
having or experiencing what he promised. It's not to show everyone that I arrived with pride, that I made it and have my chair, I saw it, and in the end I sit in the chair, now that you're there. The responsibility is much, much, much greater because you have to govern, to reign, you have to be a professional, a father, you have to go out, a doctor, a leader, right? You have to be the one in charge of finances, the best of all. Why? Because you've already made it. Let's invite the praise team. Thank you.
And before
we leave here,
thank you.
In the book of 2 Samuel 5.
3, it is written that they came.
Well, all the elders of Israel came to the king at Hebron, and King David made a covenant with them at Hebron before Jehovah, and they anointed David as king over Israel. David was, 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned for 40 years in Hebron. He reigned over Judah for 7 years and 6 months in Jerusalem.
He reigned 30.
Over Israel and Jerusalem, 33 years over all Israel and Judah. All the years that David reigned over Israel was the time that God had planned for him to be king. So I don't know where each of you is among these 4 areas in these 4 processes.
Thank you.
And if you can, the 4 points are like if they were on an upward slope. And remember, you don't have to, okay? The beginning is where we came from. We must find God's security and overcome the situation in order to become better. And then everything else. I don't know where they are, but I know where I am, and I know where part of our family is. I don't know if you know, but how many people...
Do you know?
Is that okay?
I know.
No, me. A long time ago, I went through a really big breakup. And the enemy came to us and did a lot of harm to our family.
And we stood firm.
But standing firm, and we knew we were not going to lose our family.
And no.
We have not suffered our family here in this country alone. Even when I was struggling with the language, with the cleaning,
Not to lose.
we didn't come for that.
Not to lose.
We came to pass on the faith to the new generation, and the gift, the present that we received is to be passed on. But there is no enemy.
It's the enemy.
And there is a goal that the goal is to break us, to break the family and destroy our family, to take them away from faith as much as possible. It was a breaking point. I wasn't called to be the king of Israel. I'm not going to be the king of Israel, but I was called to be a good dad. Yes, I was called to be a good husband and to be the one who provides for the household, that nothing would be lacking, and I wanted to do the best I could, but the enemy is still the enemy. He came to do his thing, and many times he has come at me, but I stood firm with confidence. And we learned to get back up and also to overcome.
And you know what?
It has nothing new to give us, but God has a lot.
A lot to give us. That's why it's not
It's not just another weekend where they come to fill the seat. They have to look inside the seat. There is a spiritual war. The enemy is not sitting quietly. He came to destroy, to break, and especially to attack our family.
Yes.
And we are... Huh?
With troubles. There are also medical and health problems. And sometimes I pray too,
Even though I don't have healing,
Where is healing?
but I pray for some people and they come to tell me I'm healed, but actually it's not my gift. But it happens anyway, but inside my family it can't happen, and I don't know why. I don't pray and there's no healing. I don't know why. Yesterday I was at the airport and I got really angry with God.
And
I screamed a lot and asked why. But it's his time. He's the one who knows. That's why I tell you, I don't know what you all think, but we all go through hardships. I'm standing here just like you are sitting there, and I also have many.
Hardships.
But, God comes to do what he knows how to do, so let's stand up and pray. We thank you.
We thank you.
Because you really are the one who loves us.
Lord, you are the one who is with us in those moments.
You allow us to be in these difficult moments where we can also feel your love. And you also give us, and we can. Thank you for all the things you give us.
For all the things that you...
Sometimes we don't understand that we have to go through these situations, but if we do, we know that you are involved in these matters.
Lord.
Thank you for each one of us here.
Lord, that in their own brokenness.
I ask you to help us be present to go through each of these difficult situations, and that you can help us get through. Move on to the next point.
That he may wake up, recover, and
at the end of the day,
overcome situations.
And be based.
And also be able to adapt to where you have to be until you get there. Thank you for everything you do, Lord.
Thank you for the deliverance, for the healing. Bless the family, the new parents of the babies, the whole congregation. In the name of Jesus, the Messiah.
Amen. May this Shabbat bless you and keep you, Lord.
May he shine his face upon you and show you mercy and grant you peace.
The grace of the Lord Jesus.
The love and fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with you all. Amen.